Peer-to-peer gossip is going to revolutionize Algorand. Why? Well, frankly, it's going to stop some of the naysayers who are saying Algorand is decentralized because they don't have it. We're going to look at that today. We're going to go through peer-to-peer gossip and why it's important, and look at some of the numbers behind Algorand in the first quarter and kind of tie those two things together, because I think Algorand is on the right track. Peer-to-peer gossip is a big step in that, and so we're going to talk about that today on Frugal BC. By the way, guys, if you like this stuff, please hit that like and subscribe button. Now remember, you don't have to smash it. You can actually just press it ever so gently, and it works that way too. By the way, we are brought to you by Haystack, the easiest way, the simplest and easiest and cleanest way to trade on Algorand. And you can find a link for the Haystack app, which is developed by the same folks behind non-fungible domains, in the description below, and you will get a little bit of a discount, and so will I. So check that out in the description. And we're brought to you by Marcus Aurelius. That is a meme coin and NFT project on the Algorand blockchain, sharing the wisdom about stoicism. Stoicism has been really important in my life, so I appreciate this project. We're so happy to have both of these projects supporting the Frugal BC channel, so give them some love. By the way, channel members see this video before anyone else. You can get that for only $1. Higher tiers get special videos only available to channel members. So let's get into this, because I want to talk about peer-to-peer gossip. And I think this is something that, some people might argue Algorand should have had for a while. I think it's doing really well because it's coming now, and we're going to talk about what that means and why it's important. I think this is a really important concept in Algorand, so we'll dive into that. And then we're going to look at some numbers from Nansen on the first half of the year and how Algorand is doing, which coincides with the adoption of peer-to-peer gossip. Not necessarily saying they're related, but I think it's a good excuse to kind of talk about these numbers and kind of fill in how Algorand is doing. So we're going to do all that. Let's look at I found this, first I found this tweet from the Algorand dev account. So let's start there. This is from the Algorand developers page. Soon Algorand will transition to a P2P gossip network. And this was back in March. So the soon is basically now, right? They say after staking rewards were introduced this year to incentivize people running nodes on the Algorand blockchain, and it really exploded the growth of nodes, leading to more decentralization. There's a key element, though, that some people picked up on. We're going to dive into that a little bit later, but P2P is actually live right now, but you have to, last I checked at least, you have to actually hit a toggle switch to get it to work. So that means, and we'll dive into that more when we get to the more detailed section here. But anyways, the transitioning Algorand to a P2P gossip network architecture will enhance the autonomy of the chain and fortify the protocol's long-term resilience. Upgrade expected in the first half of 2025, which it did happen. That is live. We found that out during the Algorand space, where they talked about the roadmap. They mentioned that was basically already live. I think they should have shouted that from the rooftops a little more, but we got it out there, and that's very great. So by providing peer-to-peer data propagation paths, the network will reduce its reliance on relay nodes and become further resilient to any potential disruptions. Now, some of you might be reading that and going, what the heck is data propagation paths? Well, you don't need to know that. There's a much more detailed explanation coming up, so why don't we dive into that? Because I'll admit, I only roughly kind of had an idea of what peer-to-peer gossip was and why it might be important. But now this post from Valar, I think, really did a good job to explain how this works. So I came across this Reddit post. P2P gossip network will be live soon on Algorand, and they kind of talk about it. Someone said, people asking like when. By the way, it is live now. Let's go down. Okay, this is really great. And I think everyone in crypto, by the way, needs to get way better at doing this. This person says, sounds like a great update, but I don't know much about it. Can anyone explain or shed more light on this P2P? So far, I know it'll make the network more decentralized. And that is true. But yeah, this is one of my biggest frustrations in crypto, is like people they go so far into the jargon and you just leave people behind. So Valor staking, which you can, it's a platform that allows you to stake to Algorand without running a node. It's not liquid staking, it's direct staking, but with other people. So it's a kind of unique in this space. P2P. So nodes on Algorand, which form consensus, currently do not communicate directly with one another, but via relay node. Relay nodes do not participate in consensus. They just distribute the messages of consensus nodes to all the other nodes. So the consensus nodes, those are the ones that if you and I set up a node and we want to earn rewards, that's what we're setting up. And that helps keep the network running. But the relay nodes actually are the ones that send it around. And most of them, we'll explain that. We're actually going to get to that in a second here. They are optimized and powered to do this very quickly, which is a part of the reason why Algorand is fast. There are around 100 relays, and they are mostly operated by the Algorand Foundation, which has been a long time misconception and point of criticism that the Algorand network is centralized because of this. The truth is that anyone can run a relay node, and some people do. It's just that consensus nodes connect by default to the relays of the Algorand Foundation. But you can set your own node to connect with other relays too. So it's fair to say that, yeah, people can set up a relay node, but everything I see is actually about the consensus nodes. There's not many people running these relay nodes besides the foundation. So I think I would actually call that half of a misconception or somewhat misleading. It is true that most of them are run by the Algorand Foundation, which, you know, I think it's something of a fair criticism. Now, people like Justin Bonds have used this to completely dismiss Algorand, and I think that's a bit much. I do think there is something to his criticism, though. So I think there is some truth there. Anyway, with P2P, which of course stands to peer-to-peer, the network will now support also direct communication between the nodes without going via a relay. So, and Hedera has this already. They have the peer-to-peer gossip protocol. Now Algorand has it too. This will make the network even more robust because even if all the relays go down, the network will still run, which is huge. I think that's wonderful. Because yeah, what if something happened? What if the foundation was hacked or something? I don't know. You know, I'll admit I don't fully understand the technical side of that enough to know if that's like a thing that could happen, but it seems like it would at least cause disruption, if not take the whole thing down. By the way, Algorand has never been down. Just want to point that out. Anyway, if you want to deliver a letter to your friend on Algorand today, you must take a car and drive on the highway. This is the analogy he's using. You cannot use any other road. If the highway is closed, you cannot deliver the letter to your friend. With P2P on Algorand, you will not be able to use any road or even walk across mountains to deliver the letter to your friend. I think that's such a wonderful analogy. Good for Valar, because I want to see more people explain stuff like this. This is why this matters. This is why stuff like this is why this matters. I think this is a wonderful way to explain it. Let's see, what did they say about performance speed? There will be a small reduction in performance. So that's something to keep in mind, but I think it's worth it for the decentralization. So to me, peer-to-peer gossip's introduction kind of solves the last issue really with Algorand. And now it's just a matter of growing the network, getting more people on board. There's really great stuff being built on Algorand all the time. And in the spirit of that, why don't we look at some numbers shared by Nansen, which I think is great, explaining why this matters, where Algorand is headed, and just how it did in the first half of the year. Nansen, by the way, if you're not familiar, they do some great AI analytics, multi-chain, 337,000 followers. They say, here's the on-chain story from the first half of 2025. The basics are staking went live, governance wind down, DeFi volume spiked, and record user growth. Staking rewards program is live, 10 algo per block. I think that's reduced a bit, but yeah, that's basically correct. 50% of the transaction fees go to validators, no lockups, no slashing, solo node with 30K, 5.62% APY, or you can delegate via Folks Finance, Tinyman, or Ready. Ready's the Ready pool. It's a little bit different than, it's a little different than liquid staking and finance and Tinyman. And Ready, it goes through your wallet and you just stake to a big pool. You don't get quite the amount of rewards, but it's also so seamless and transparent. Government awards are officially over. Yep, 3.8 algo peaked committed per period. By the way, I loved the Gov rewards, not because of participating in governance, but because DeFi was incentivized and I was doing like crazy numbers with my USDC algo pool. But that's a story for another day. 25,000 governors, 687.5 million algo distributed, a 3.5-year experiment in token democracy, sunset with stats few protocols can match. AlgoKit 3.0 turned heads. TypeScript smart contracts. By the way, Algorand now supports TypeScript and Java programming. And I was told TypeScript was actually even a bigger deal. Oh, did I say Java? I meant Python. If I said Java, I meant Python. TypeScript and Python programming. And I'm told TypeScript is actually even a bigger deal than I almost said it again, than Python. Real-time event monitoring, visual debugging and VS Code AI ready docs. Good. Web3 tooling doesn't feel like a hackathon demo. Nice. I've heard it's very good to develop on. You can even do it with no code tools now. There's a whole cohort of people who are coming up doing that. Very cool. The DeFi base is leveling up. Wormhole NTT live. Cross-chain no wrap. Kiln supports algo staking. Alpha Arcade brings USDCA prediction markets. By the way, that is one of our experiments, because if you hold the Alpha token, which has some truly outstanding tokenomics, you actually earn USDC from the fees that they record, and it's been a pretty decent little return. Daily transactions hit 12 million after governance shut down. Active users spiked to 70,000 on Binance staking news. For a quiet chain, users made a lot of noise. That's right, there is a lot of people talking about it. Here they talk about Folks Finance and Lofty flipped Tiny Man in April. That's something, huh? Peak DeFi activity was 4 million transactions in a week. But no one's using it, right? This is what we hear all the time. Lofty ended H1, the first half, as the top protocol by volume. That's pretty impressive. Now, I have my issues with Lofty. You can see my reviews on the website, but I like that it exists, and that's for. I wish there's some things I wish they had done differently, and you can watch my reviews if you want to see that. Magnificent Six are fighting for the crown, and that is Folks Finance, Lofty, Tiny Man, Pact, Messina One, and Vestige. I use Vestige for all my charting, by the way. They have all the ASAs on there, all the Algorand secondary assets. World Chess leads in transactions. It used to be TravelX. I don't think they're mentioning that TravelX is no longer using blockchain, it looks like. Yeah, TravelX wallet tops users. Not anymore. Oranges.meme did 23.5 million transactions from just 10,000 users. I think that's because Oranges uses Algorand transactions to mine Aura. I think that's what that is. These aren't vanity dApps. They're sticking. They're useful. They're working. I think the Orange, well, whatever. I'm not going to go into that. But the best start was 1.9 billion algo staked across 1,821 validators. No slashing. No lockups. Top 100 stakers dominate, but liquid staking's rising fast. I don't love liquid staking. It's a good opportunity, but I wish there was more transparency. I want to see how much did I made this week on liquid staking. You got to think from a user's perspective. More apps need to think from a user's perspective. Validator infra is growing more decentralized by the week, and we're very close to being done here. Real world moves. MT Bill tokenized UST ETFs. Very cool. Carbon insights from shipping giant MOL. Enel Group tokenized solar energy, and Paycode powers offline payments in Africa. This is actually a small portion of them because we reported on a lot of different ones. There's one around water utilities. There's some wallets for aid in Africa and stuff. Just all kinds of great stuff going on. It's not hype, it's deployment. Yeah, and I call this the boring but important stuff. This isn't going to move the markets, but it's reasons that Algorand's actually being put to work, and you should care about that for sure. So the first half of 2025 was Algorand's biggest flex so far. Infra matured, users showed up, institutions shipped, and there's still half a year left. Very awesome. Yeah, so I hope you got something out of this show today, because I think both the peer-to-peer gossip going live and being implemented, that's a big step for Algorand in terms of decentralization. And then just the numbers that Algorand has been putting up lately. It may not be the biggest pump and dump coin, and that's good. I think what we're talking about when we talk about Algorand is just pure long-term value and actually building stuff in the real world. That's what I like about Algorand. That's why I keep making content around Algorand. I'll probably make more on other coins, I'll be honest. But there's so many ways to earn on Algorand outside of just price appreciation, and all the apps actually work because the chain is very functional, it's very fast, fees are low, and so you can do so much cool stuff on it. So that's what I wanted to highlight today. I hope you guys got something out of this. I'm FrugalBC. Stay safe out there, and I will see you in the future.